Camping had always been my way of escaping the chaos of everyday life. There was something about the quiet rustling of the leaves, the distant hooting of an owl, and the crackling of a warm fire that made me feel at peace. So, when I finally got a long weekend off work, I decided to go on a solo camping trip to a secluded forest that I had read about online. It was supposed to be a hidden gem, untouched by modern civilization, offering the ultimate solitude and tranquility. The journey to the campsite was uneventful. I drove for hours through winding roads, passing through small towns before finally reaching the dirt path that led into the woods. The deeper I went, the denser the forest became. Sunlight barely pierced through the thick canopy above, casting long, eerie shadows on the ground. My GPS lost signal about halfway in, but I had a physical map, so I wasn't too worried. I found a nice clearing beside a small stream and decided it was the perfect spot to set up camp. The air was fresh, and the sound of water flowing nearby added to the serenity. After pitching my tent and gathering firewood, I settled in, cooking a simple meal over the fire and enjoying the peaceful isolation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I leaned back against a log, staring at the stars that dotted the night sky. It was perfect. That was until I noticed something strange. Somewhere in the darkness, just beyond the reach of my fire's glow, I heard the faint crunching of leaves. At first, I dismissed it as an animal, perhaps a deer or a raccoon, but as the sounds grew closer and more deliberate, my heart started to race. "Hello," I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence. The woods had gone completely still. Even the usual nocturnal sounds, the chirping of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, had disappeared. A heavy sense of unease settled over me. I grabbed my flashlight and shined it toward the trees, but I saw nothing, just darkness and the thick trunks of towering pines. Trying to shake off the paranoia, I retreated to my tent and zipped it up, convincing myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But deep down, something felt off. I must have dozed off at some point because the next thing I knew, I was jolted awake by a sound that sent ice through my veins. A slow, deliberate scraping against the fabric of my tent. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Someone or something was outside. My mind raced through possibilities. Could it be another camper? A lost hiker? But why would they be creeping around my tent in the middle of the night? I reached for my knife, gripping it tightly, as I strained my ears, listening. The scraping sound stopped, replaced by the soft crunch of footsteps moving away. I waited, heart hammering against my chest, before slowly unzipping the tent just enough to peek outside. Nothing. The forest was as still as ever. My fire had died down to embers, casting faint, flickering shadows across the ground. But there, just at the edge of my campsite, I saw them. Footprints, human footprints. They circled my tent before leading off into the woods. My stomach twisted in fear. Whoever had been there had been watching me. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I stayed inside my tent, gripping my knife, listening for any sound, any sign of movement. But nothing came. When the first light of dawn filtered through the trees, I quickly packed my things, my nerves still on edge. As I started my hike back to my car, I had the overwhelming sense of being watched. Every rustling leaf, every snapping twig made me jump, but I forced myself to keep moving. When I finally reached my car, I let out a breath of relief and threw my gear into the trunk. But just as I was about to get in, something caught my eye. A single piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. With shaky hands, I pulled it free and unfolded it. 4 words were scrawled across it in messy, uneven handwriting. You were not alone. I never went camping alone again.